Hey everyone, Dark Spider David here. Don't mind my saltiness, I'm a little bitter. I realized in preparation for this review that I may have left one of my Marvel shirts at the hotel that I stayed at while I was out of town to watch this movie. It was a birthday gift. Coincidentally, ended up being the only Marvel shirt that I have that actually has Black Widow on it. So seeing as that Deadpool is a little topical right now with Ryan Reynolds dropping some teases of his inclusion in the MCU, I figured, you know what, this is probably the next best thing. So let's go ahead and briefly talk about Black Widow. I don't really mean to divulge a little bit too much, and don't worry, no spoilers are going to be found in this video. So if you have not seen Black Widow, you don't have anything to worry about. I'm going to be as vague as possible and give you guys my 2 cents on what is actually a pretty symbolic movie, because not only are we getting a solo film for Black Widow, I mean, that's just kind of a big thing in and of itself, but it's also, due to circumstances around the world with the pandemic, the official return of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to where it all started, the cinema, in theaters. Granted, you can have the option to watch this movie at home through the Premiere Access ability by paying the extra $30 on top of your subscription to Disney Plus. But I mean, come on, for those $30, you might as well at least buy yourself a movie theater ticket, abide by the COVID protocols, and at least witness it in that treatment, because this is it. Marvel is back at the movies, and we're opening with Black Widow. First of all, before I get into the review, I did in fact give like a very impromptu review of the film live. And most of my live streams are now going to be exclusive to my Twitch channel, so if you guys want to catch me live, potentially even right now, make sure to check out the link in the description, twitch.tv/DarkSpiderDavid. I stream Mondays, Thursdays, and whenever I have the available free time on the weekends. Go ahead, check it out, drop a follow, show your support, and hopefully I'll see you guys then. And it may or may not have been a slightly soft return for Marvel to the theaters, because frankly, going into Black Widow, you know, along with any of these Marvel movies, regardless of my anticipation level or where my expectations lie, as far as the trailers or the teasers or the imagery are concerned, I'm very, very open, especially after how many times Marvel themselves have really proven to us that they can really take something and just make it completely awesome, something that we have never even heard of before. Guardians of the Galaxy, for example. Black Widow having been established already with literally like 4 or 5 movies, the Avengers films, as well as most of the Captain America films. There's really an awful lot of lore to the character, so it's good to have her be on her own adventure, being able to, you know, very effortlessly carry the film. And Scarlett Johansson is got that role down to a T. So performance wise, we're gonna be good, we're gonna be in the clear. She's an Oscar nominated actress, but she is Black Widow just like everybody else is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with their perfect casting. So some of those things were evenly tempered. But as soon as the movie started rolling and we get what is actually our first title sequence for a Marvel film, something just didn't 100% click with me, and the movie starts off just a little rough. As far as pacing and editing and storytelling is concerned, I mean, I'm seeing certain things that I feel like I should care about and are integral to the story, as far as planting seeds not just for Natasha's lore, but also for what's going to really transpire within this film to kind of pay off a little bit later on in later acts. But there was just nothing that was just giving me that tick, that one X factor that made me go, yes, I'm in for a great movie. Remember Guardians of the Galaxy, the example I just used, when you have a very heart-wrenching scene of Peter losing his mother, followed by an opening title sequence that just splashes right in your face saying Guardians of the Galaxy with that song playing? That's that feeling. That's that feeling where you're like, those 1-2 punches of emotions combined made you go, yes, we are in for a great movie. And frankly, Black Widow doesn't really start off with that, especially with some of its musical stylings as far as song choice, and again, some of the editing and the pacing where I would have personally restructured scenes, but at that point I'm just kind of creating my own movie, so that's neither here or there. And needless to say, the best part about the film thus far is in fact Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. You buy her dilemma as she just got out of the events of Civil War. She just got out of breaking the Sokovia Accord. She's on the run and she's trying to figure out what exactly she's doing next. You know, people are not exactly, or at least her fellow Avengers are not ready to lend a helping hand, specifically the ones that were on Tony's team. So she's just trying to find herself And it isn't until there's some kind of involvement with her family that comes a knockin', and she becomes involved in this plot that involves espionage and spy antics and things that are going down in her homeland of Russia, and why and what happened exactly back with her childhood, her upbringing as a widow, and why it is that she has destined herself to never go back. But ultimately, it's because of this film that she's gonna have to. And Natasha is thrusted back into this whole world of espionage by her sister, Yelena, played by Florence Pugh. And this was it. This was the turning point for me that made me go, okay, now we're talking. And it's her introduction, followed by the rest of the family, played by Rachel Weisz and David Harbour as the Red Guardian, and then some of the action sequences that then kind of flow from one to another as she tries to bring this family together and figure out exactly what's going on. That's when the movie then clicked with me, thankfully. So even though there were some rough spots in this opening act, it's once the family that Natasha is now kind of clicking with that the movie not only finds its humor, its pacing, but also its chemistry and its heart. Because though the editing may not be refined to a T and slow itself down as far as the pacing is concerned, or maybe some of the action sequences might have some spotty CGI here or there that teeters on the Fast and the Furious and Family Saga, frankly, it's because of the chemistry with these characters that actually made me suspend that disbelief and made me go along with the ride. And the performances are knockouts all throughout across the board. I mean, you got a plethora of talented Oscar-nominated actresses. David Harbour, who I think is going to get a nomination himself with the right project. He's a spectacular actor. Love him in Stranger Things. And so them kind of just vibing off with each other, it made the movie overall an enjoyable time. And as the plot kind of thickens out, and again the stakes get risen by our very, very, very generic villain played by Ray Winstone, who reminds us of the golden age of Phase 1 Marvel villains, unfortunately. Despite that, and some of the maneuvering they do with some of the lore behind one of our other big baddies here, Taskmaster, whose essential characteristic that we all really like from the comics, that this a villain can really mimic not only the person that they're fighting, but also the Avengers, and kind of being able to copy from the best and kind of mesh it all into one fighting style. That is still here, but the resource of where that comes from and the motivation behind it is a little changed up. Some people are gonna love it, some people are gonna hate it, some people are just gonna fall in the middle, and I was kind of one of them. I wasn't really fully invested in the comics like that, so seeing the changes, I was kind of like, well, you know, it could have been done better, but at least I didn't hate it. Although, say what you want about that CG, this movie makes it clear that just because the majority of our action members here are women, doesn't mean that they're going to be holding back punches. There's some visceral choreography when it comes to some of these heroines throwing down, and so many times I caught myself either wincing or just kind of flinching back, going, God damn, like, kudos to everybody that was involved with these fights, whether it be our main actresses Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, Scarlett Johansson, and our actor David Harbour, and of course their respective stunt doubles. Give it up. And at times it feels like this is in fact a Phase 2 movie rather than a Phase 4 film, considering how ridiculously abundant this movie references the Avengers, more so than even any of the Netflix TV shows. But it was still not a bad time at the movie theaters. Regardless of my qualms, it was a pretty enjoyable ride and a pretty good outing for Black Widow. Where exactly is the future of Black Widow? Not necessarily tied to Natasha, but just in essence for the MCU, is actually anybody's guess, but at least the end credit scene promises something really intriguing, not just for the nature of Black Widow, but for other properties in this fourth phase of the MCU as a whole. And I'm not just talking about the films, but the TV shows as well. Thank you guys for watching my review of Black Widow. Let me know in the comments if you guys have seen the film, what you guys think. Make sure to keep it spoiler free. Drop a like on the video if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. Share, subscribe for more videos coming up. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.